Hey guys, how's it going? Go See Richard today, and today we are going to be talking about saving. So last week I did that whole video on credit cards, and a lot of people said, well, it's really good that you've been teaching people how to spend money. How do you save money? Now, I had mentioned a little bit about savings accounts and how you shouldn't leave money in a savings account, and I want to elaborate on that just because it's a really important topic. Yes, we all spend money, but we should also all be saving money for different things in life. So I'm gonna go through a couple of accounts and what you should use them for. So let's get right off to it and start with the first one. The first one that I think everyone should have is a minor savings account when you first start out when you're young. The reason why is getting a kid or someone into a savings account is a really good thing, just so it teaches them how to save. Now the problem is in recent years, the percentages of savings accounts have gone down so much that there's almost no return on investment. You will put money into this account and literally it grows very, very, very slow. I hate them for long term. If you're short-term saving, meaning let's say you're saving for your first car and you expect to buy it in the first 4 months or whatnot, or 5 months, maybe you're saving all your pennies for it. This is where you would put your money. If you don't want to leave it in your basic banking, because your basic banking, that's where you're going to be having your everyday expenditures come out of, like your bill payments if you aren't going to do them through your Visa and all that other fun stuff. It is a good account to have for a certain purpose. For me though, 99% of everything I do does not end up here. This is for short-term savings, like if I was going to save for a vacation or save for something like that. So that is the big thing about savings account, not long-term. This is for short-term savings. There we go. Next one I'm going to go over. TFSA. A TFSA, which is a tax-free savings account, this is the most valuable thing that someone can have. Why? Because you can filter money through this, and at some point, it's crazy. I almost feel like I'm doing something wrong by the ways that you can use this to your benefit. One of them is the fact that for me, I run investments through this, including mutual funds. I know people that run stock accounts through this. Now, why would you run those through a TFSA, you might ask? Well, the reason why is because you don't get taxed on the money you make off of your investments, your return on investment, as we'll call it. So let's say you end up buying a certain stock at $1 a share, and all of a sudden that company blows up. They're doing really good. All of a sudden they're at $44 a share. And let's say you invested $1,000 of your tax-free savings. All of a sudden, when you pull that investment out, it's at $44,000 all of a sudden your tax-free savings. It's a great thing. All of a sudden you have $44,000 you just put into a TFSA, which you're not paying tax on. And again, you have to have your TFSA linked to your stocks account. You need to go to your banking officer and talk to them about this. There's different accounts you can link to it, including GICs and things like that, meaning you take a bunch of money and you lock it away for a certain amount of time. And a lot of times the interest that you're getting back isn't as good as you would get off of, say, a mutual fund or a stock, but you will still get interest back. That's for GICs. Now for me, with the mutual fund, what's really cool is the reason why I use it, let's say, depending on your birth year, you are able to use $75,000 worth of room on a TFSA, meaning that you can have $75,000 in this account without getting penalized by the government. What's really cool is if you have a mutual fund and you have $75,000 worth of mutual fund, and all of a sudden the interest of your mutual fund goes past that. You start making, let's say you go to $100,000 somehow off of that, you're not going to get penalized for it. If you were to, let's say you have $75,000 in there, the interest goes up and you hit $80,000 and you were to throw in even $1 more, all of a sudden you could get pegged. So you need to be careful. So you still need, this is why I do suggest having someone you can talk to and you trust about your investments. Big point being, when you're dealing with investments, don't just go to the same guy your parents have or something like that. I like to go and I will actually interview people before I invest through that branch. For me, I actually found somebody and they are great. They notify me when things go on in my accounts or things going on in the world. And they say, hey, this is gonna go on. It's gonna affect the stock market or it's gonna affect this. You should invest in this. And I'm telling you, there's probably a 60% chance that it's gonna go up. When I hear stuff like that, it's like, well, if it's 60% chance, maybe I'll throw in this amount of money. Or either way, there's a lot that goes in with stocks. I'm gonna try and keep this majorly to mutual funds. If you're new to investing, check them out, talk to them. 4 of the big ones that I'm part of is the Global Growth Fund, the Global Dividend Fund, the Canadian Dividend Fund, and the NASDAQ Index Fund. These are different ones. The NASDAQ is a high risk. The 2 dividend funds are medium risk. And then the Growth Fund is another high risk, meaning that you could lose everything that you invest into it. There's a big chance you won't. But again, these will make you better return on investment than any savings account. So I do suggest looking into them and don't expect insanely quick growth. It doesn't work like that. It goes up kind of slow, but I still recommend it. And I suggest you look at it too. So we're gonna leave the TFSA at that. Basically what you need to know. It's a great account. There are limits to how much you can put in. That limit increases $5,000 every year or more. Depends on the tax year. Sometimes it's $5,500, sometimes it's $6,000. Once you get used to using it, you'll understand it more. What you need to know about this is not an account which you put money in and pull out right away. If you continuously do that, let's say you put $5,000 in and you remove $5,000. Does not mean that that $5,000 is now immediately available again. You have to wait a year for it to go back to zero. If you were to take out $5,000 and jam another $5,000 in just like that, it would see that you had $5,000, doesn't calculate you taking it out, and you put another $5,000 in. So now all of a sudden you've got $10,000 and you've gone over your $5,000 limit. Again, it started calculating a bunch of years back. So you have to do your research. You have to talk to your banking officer, or you can check, depending who you use for banking, they can also give you an estimate on your limit that you can use. So let's say you've never used it before and you've had TFSA not even opened, but you're at a certain age. Technically, you could be eligible for the entire amount, meaning you could be eligible for $75,000, I think is currently what it's at. So yeah, you could technically put $75,000 of tax-free money in there. And again, it's not the money you're putting in, it's the return on investment that's tax-free. So the interest that you are earning. Big thing to note, because let's say you had this account right here, and let's say the interest rate went through the roof. What would end up happening is, yeah, you'd start making good money off of your money, but you would have to pay tax on it to the government. This one, you do not. RSPs. For when you're 65 years old, this is great. I do suggest, if you can, it doesn't have to be a lot. If you can put $25 a paycheck, go ahead. Another good thing, if you are part of a company benefits program, make sure you ask them. A lot of them do RSP matching at up to a certain amount of your paycheck. If it's 2%, put in that 2%, they match it, meaning let's say you put in $50 per paycheck, they'll put in $50 for you as well. All of a sudden, you're actually getting $100 a month. Another cool thing, if you have an accountant, talk to them, because this is also a partial tax write-off. It can save you dropping you below a certain tax bracket, and you'll get more money back at the end of the year when you claim your taxes. Again, I don't want to go too much into it. It changes all the time. You should definitely incorporate with your accountant or look into it for your province or state. Very good if you're gonna retire. A couple things I'll tell you too, if you're gonna go and buy a house and they try to get you to put your RSPs on the line in case your mortgage fails, try and avoid it, trust me. Because let's say you've made a payment on that since you were 20 and now you're 45, 50 years old, and let's say something happened and all of a sudden you go bankrupt and you lose your house, they can take your RSP money. Be careful. Stocks. We were already talking about this. I think I've gotten more into it than I really need to. This is really cool. It's like a rich man's version of gambling, or even a poor man's. Basically, you're just betting on companies doing good. And I think that if you have some extra money every now and then, it's a really cool thing to do. And I do suggest playing and dabbling with it. You never know. You could just throw a couple bucks here. It makes for, if you have a friend that's also likes to save money, again, they have to be an investing friend, give them a stock for their birthday or something. It seems so minuscule, but let's say you bought a stock and you gave them $50 worth of stock, and that stock turns into $200-300. It's kind of neat. I know that for me, if I would give it as well as other things to my kids, but I think I would, for their birthdays and stuff, this is a fun way to give your kids something, and it's better than giving them scratch-win tickets, which you're not supposed to do. But either way, look more into stocks if you'd like to. You can also go solo with this and do your own stocks, or you can go through your bank. If you go through your bank, they'll usually charge you either commission, or they'll charge you a transaction fee, $5 per transaction or whatever. You need to talk to your banking officer or whoever you have dealing with your investments. This one, return on creativity. What's that? Well, what I'm doing here. When you have a little bit of extra money and you put it in to save. For example, I know people that do it, just an example with Hot Wheels. They'll buy something that they know is going to be a rare Hot Wheels, and they hold on to it for like 5 to 10 years, and then they sell it. People do it with Lego. People do it with other things as well. Or another thing, a carpenter, he gets home at the end of the day and he's like, you know what? I've seen this trending on Pinterest or something. I'm going to build it and I'm going to sell it. So he takes it on as a project, he paints it up, maybe puts $200 worth of lumber stained stuff into it, and he sells it for $1,000. All of a sudden he just made $800 off of 200. That's another way you can save. Bakers, I'm sure you guys took a look when those chocolate bombs went nuts, right? If you capitalized on that, you could have made some good money as well. Anyways, that's return on creativity. I think it's the Joker who says this. If you're good at something, don't do it for free. And that's it. That's all I wanted to go to with that. There's other things you can do to help take burdens down. For example, if you have a car loan, you could pay that off early. You could throw a little bit of money on there, and by throwing a little bit extra on your loans, you can do a big drop in interest, which will affect you in the long run. This is something to really consider. Also, your mortgage. Seems kind of crazy, right? I bet you if you have your mortgage linked to your banking somehow and you watch, you're probably, let's say you're paying $2,000 and you're currently knocking $1,100 off your total mortgage amount, meaning that you're paying like $900 in interest. By paying a little bit extra, you take off a payment at the end. So you're actually saving yourself interest in the long run. It's like helping future Richard. That's the way I look at it. Or future you. So these are little things that they aren't immediate, but they will make a difference in the long run. I don't suggest that you go and blow your mortgage down and only pay your mortgage down, because you will make money off of investing. But I've heard of ratios like 70% investment, 30% mortgage, things like that. And plus certain mortgages, if you prepay a certain amount, technically, let's say something happens and you end up in the hospital, well, what'll happen is they can actually go into that payment that you made extra earlier, and they can use that towards you being in the hospital. And that's if you don't have certain insurance coverages. Anyways, this is me just going briefly into this. I still suggest you go and interview and listen to what these people who are going to take care of your investments have to say. You want to have that buddy-buddy style relationship. A lot of them will try to not do that because of the fact that they don't want you to hate them if they end up losing you money. But just remember, there's a much higher chance of you making money than losing money. And for me, when you go to those long-term investments, especially mutual funds, you'll watch them go down and then they'll go up. And they do a lot of this. And that's why they aren't for short term, because what you're doing is when you want to pull out those investments is where they're on a high stroke, and then you reinvest when they're on a low stroke. And it's learning to play the game. Anyways, that's as far as I'm gonna go with this video. If you wanna know more, please go and watch other YouTube videos. You need to get fully invested in your future. Anyways, that's the lamest one I've got yet. Thanks again for watching. Have a great day.